There was an interesting thing at the beginning of this chapter with the bread.
Yeah.
Gideon has had he's defeated the main army, and he's chasing the remnants of the Midianite army. And he comes to Succoth, and he asks them for bread. My men are tired, and he still only has 300 men. He's chasing an army of 15,000. And so the men of Succoth are like, there's no way you're going to win this. So, if you had the kings in your hand, sure, we'd give you bread, but you're going to get killed, and then they're going to come back and punish us for feeding you. So they're saying, no, we're not giving you anything. And then he gets to the next town, and the same thing happens. And he's threatening them, saying, okay, that's your choice, but when I come back, you're going to pay for it. And it reminded me of two other things. One, when the Hebrews came out of Egypt, and they got to Edom, and they said, let us have some bread and water. And Edom refused. And so God cursed Edom and said, you're going to pay for this later. And they did. But there's another case. And when David is running from Saul, and he goes to the priests, and he lies to them and says, I'm on a secret mission from the king that nobody's supposed to know about. He says, I need 5 loaves of bread, and I'm going to go meet my men. It's like, first off, you have at least 30 men, his 30 mighty men. And there's David. What are you going to do with 5 loaves of bread? What is the good of that? But, and the priest says, well, I don't have any bread except for this consecrated bread. So as long as your men have not been around women, then I guess you can have it, which technically he should not have done that. But he gives it to him. And then the story says, and then there was an Edomite there named Doeg, who was one of Saul's main men. And then it goes back to the story with the priest, and he says, you have any weapons? And he gives him Goliath's sword. So he asks for bread, then there's an Edomite, and then he asks for weapons. And he gets the weapon of one of Israel's defeated enemies. And this seems like there's a deliberate connection back to the Hebrews in Edom. The Hebrews come asking for bread, but they're asking Edomites. David, God's anointed, comes asking for bread, and there's an Edomite. Gideon comes asking for bread, Midianites. But each time it's God's anointed who is coming asking for bread because he's on the run. Gideon is chasing his enemies. The Hebrews are trying to get to the promised land. David is running from Saul. And every time they are refused, except for the priest. And the ones who refuse get cursed and punished. I don't remember what happens to the priest in the story.
Isn't that what the story that Yeshua refers to? Mm-hmm. When he's justifying, brings it up, about
it isn't.
David is held blameless.
To me, it harkens back to the whole hospitality thing. We even see that like in the previous Leviticus scriptures that we're reading about how you treat foreigners and all that kind of stuff. But it's like David coming to the priest, and his power not being with him, like his army not being with him. Like this is how Yeshua came. He and then once he had his men, he had 12 men. He didn't have an army. Everybody was expecting him to have an army. Mm-hmm. But he had 12 men, and the priests, of course, didn't fear him. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same as what we're seeing here. It's like you either fear God or you fear man. And in the case with the priests, it's like with Yeshua and in some of these stories, it's like it was either they were fearing man or they were fearing God. And that determined their decision, right?
Well, I always wondered too, though, was David considered like a priest as well? Like, was he somehow pictured as priest and king in that?
Mm-hmm. The order of Melchizedek kind of thing.
Right, and foreshadowing Yeshua, so that it wasn't wrong for him to have that bread.
Yeah.
Maybe, but it says that only the sons of Aaron are allowed to eat it, and they're required to eat it in the tabernacle. And he didn't do either of those. He's not a son of Aaron, and he didn't eat it at the tabernacle. So, I think technically it was not allowed to give it to him. But I think the priest was thinking back to these other stories of Gideon and the Edomites and saying, well, I know what happened last time God's anointed came asking for bread, and they didn't give it. And so he's saying, I'm not going to end up like the Edomites and the Midianites. And maybe he was even looking at this Edomite standing there saying, yeah, I remember what happened to the Edomites when we asked for bread. So I'm going to give David bread and let God sort this out.
And that's an interesting thing is that would have been an act of faith. Mm-hmm. Like it wouldn't have been, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to try to figure out what to do here. Cause he was in a pickle. What do you do in that situation? Right? You're like, here's the anointed of God
consecrated bread.
standing before
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and the priest, it
You
says
know you're
the
not
priest
supposed
was
to give this
terrified.
bread. Yeah,
It says he was trembling when David showed up.
yeah. So there was obviously the fear of God in this dude. And that's what we're seeing is like, first and foremost, we're seeing the fear of God with these, in this section, there's no fear of God in them. They're like, who are you, Gideon? And honestly, it could have gone, one of two ways. They were going to either fear Midian and the king of Midian, because they were thinking Gideon wasn't going to win this battle, or they were going to fear God. Only two options there. And they chose the fear of man is what they choose. And Gideon's like telling them, when I come back, and Yeshua says the same thing. He says, when I come back.
Yeah, I like that contrast between the Ephraimites and the men of Succoth, where the Ephraimites were saying, why didn't you tell us you were going to war? We wanted to come with.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes nice with them. And the men of Succoth are like saying, heck no, we're not having anything to do with you. You go to war by yourself. And so he treats them very differently.
Yeah.
Even though they're all Israelites. You're either with me or we're going to have words.